Hello, admin designees. I am going to talk through just briefly some tips for note taking at IEP meetings. What I have here is just an example of what an IEP meeting agenda might look like. As a reminder, this agenda is really just for the case manager and for you. It houses all the information that may need to be referenced during the meeting. It does not need to be read completely through. It's really, again, just the place to hold the information that might be relevant to discussions. It will also help decrease how many notes need to be taken at the meeting. The purpose of note taking at the meeting is not to record meeting minutes. It is to identify parent input, note any areas of agreement, disagreement, or further concerns, and record the decisions that are made as the team. When the meeting starts, please fill out attendance. The names should already be in here from the case manager, but please record who is in attendance and if there are any absent. For the purpose of the meeting, if parents identify anything specific, any specific questions or concerns they want to discuss, you can add them to the list. Record yes or no if they take the procedural safeguards. And if there are any changes that need to be made to the first page of the IEP, that's typically in like parent contact information or addresses, we can note those changes here at the top. So that's all really brief in that first section, introductions to the meeting, and should take just a couple minutes. And notes should be very, very brief, if any at all, other than yes, no of the safeguards taken, potentially any concerns identified. The next agenda item is classroom performance. Most of this should already be filled out. Please add any parent input of strengths and add parent input of concerns. If there are lengthy discussions of information that was not already known that the teachers or student shares, you can add anything. There will likely be many occasions where there's nothing to add to teachers or students, only if it was not already known or not already recorded. That will be similar to the present levels. Notes here, maybe you can add it in on the left-hand side if there is anything, but you'll see I didn't even put placeholders in because this is really just summarizing information from the classroom, assessments, other relevant data in the key areas that the IEP may serve. It's really just a summary that might be read during the meeting or referenced during the meeting. Typically won't have much to add unless, again, teacher, student, or parents shares anything that was not already known. One area where they may be details to share more of is the current level and transition areas, because there's a lot we can learn from parents about any discussions or things they've started with their student regarding any employment experience or thoughts about employment experience, what they do for recreation and leisure, any support they give with helping out at home, taking care of themselves, anything they participate in the community, and kind of what their goals are for after high school that they maybe want support with their student learning to be ready for those goals. So maybe some details in this area. This is all just data that may be filled out but doesn't need to be discussed or taken notes on during the meeting. The annual goals and services is the next place that there will be some note taking to consider, specifically when there are new proposed goals and objectives. When the case manager notes what the proposed goals are, record any key discussion notes. So if the student, family, or other teachers are in agreement, you can just write team agrees with the proposed areas for the goal. If there's any questions, concerns, or disagreement, note what those are. Just listen to the discussion. If there's really relevant points that support a different perspective of what the goals should be, you could kind of just briefly note those and then write down what it is decided. What did they decide the goal areas will be? Write those down. Same thing with the other goals. When they propose, if everyone's in agreement, just say that. If there's further discussion that leads to any different kinds of agreements, take notes on that. Similar process here for service minutes. This should be very brief in discussion, but again, if there's any disagreement or concerns or discussion of doing something different, changing the IEP from what it was to something different, record just the essential details of that conversation really briefly on the left. That may show up here in the service grid, or it could show up down here in the LRE. These are both very similar related. If you put them in one place, you don't need to put them in the other. That's your call. That's fine either way. Same here with the other consideration. You can see there, I have an example here of perhaps the team was discussing reducing strategies to advisory, which is 30 minutes 2 times per week. And this is what a really brief note could look like. No, the team believes to reach the goal, daily instruction is needed with time to monitor and support application of skills to general ed tasks. So that was, the team was debating, what should we do? There wasn't really full agreement initially. The team came to full agreement. This was the decision. That's what was written down. Accommodations might have some notes, might not. The guidance to teachers when discussing accommodations is to focus only on anything they recommend adding, changing, or removing. And so you can take notes on if there's any further discussion about those or what the final decision is. If pairs are discussed, you might have notes there. Otherwise, if pair is not needed, you can leave that blank. When they discuss transition goals, maybe take notes here if there's any changes. Oftentimes, no notes will be needed. There might be some things that can be added in notes here. Oftentimes, those will already be identified. If there are course substitutions, might have some notes to take here. And that pretty much brings you to the end. If you have questions, let me know. Happy to look through a real example with you or attend a meeting with you, and we can do the note taking together.